to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, a real estate investment program. Listen and learn how to use real estate to build wealth and passive income streams for you and your family. We bring you experts every day to discuss and answer your questions on everything from single-family homes all the way up to 600-plus unit apartment complexes. And now, the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Well, good afternoon. This is David Ruzicka. I am a Lifestyles member. I am a free workshop presenter for Lifestyles Unlimited. I'm also a real estate investor, and I'm glad you're with me today. I want to talk to you. It's kind of cloudy here in Houston. We had a norther. I think it's 80 degrees now maybe or so. It may be even higher. I don't know. But I want to talk to you today about a key principle in retiring yourself in 5 years or less through real estate. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what that key principle is right at the beginning, and then we're going to unpack that over the next hour. And the key is maximizing the productivity of your money. And if you can learn how to maximize the productivity of your money, you can retire in 5 years or less. But one of the ways you're going to do that is going to make some of you throw up in your mouth. And that is one of those key principles behind maximizing productivity of your money is debt. And I know some of you are about to turn off the dial. Don't do that. Don't do that. This isn't a Ponzi scheme. It's not multi-level marketing. It's not reverse mortgages. This is straight up 200-year-old principles about real estate investing. This is about you taking control of your life, using what you have to invest in real estate, to create cash flow, to retire yourself. And in the midst of this, I'm going to cover what is the number one obstacle for many of you. I'm not going to tell you what that is until we get there. But let's talk for a little bit. Let's talk for a couple minutes about a key. I keep saying key. I need to find a different word. Let's talk for a couple of minutes about a key. Okay, we can use the word key. A key problem that a lot of people have with retiring, and that is the average American has nothing saved at retirement. That is zero, nada, which is no bueno. Millennials are even worse. Nearly 6 in 10 have no retirement savings whatsoever, which is crazy because a lot of them are living in mommy's basement, and they should be saving all that money they earn working at the Starbucks. But no, they're not saving any. And I'm joking. I know some millennials that are very productive, have great jobs. With average American having nothing saved at retirement, financial experts advise that the average 65-year-old should have between $1 million and $1.5 million set aside for retirement. My first response to that is, even if I had $1 million set aside at age 65, how does that help? Because let's say you have $1 million saved. How much cash flow do you think you can get from that? Well, for the average person, I would say your cash flow you could expect would be about 2%. So welcome to the golden years. You're living off of $20,000 a year. But let's say you're a financial genius, and in this low interest rate environment, somehow you're able to get 6%. That's $60,000 a year. If you have the ability to save $1 million over your working life, my guess is that you were making more than $60,000 a year. So again, there go the golden years. Either that or you start consuming your retirement dollars, which is what most people do. Now, I just told you, financial experts say you need to have between $1 million and $1.5 million set aside for retirement. How much do you think the average 60-year-old has? 60-somethings, age 60 to 69, average savings, $172,000. I just told you need $1.5 million. You got $172,000. That means if you are in 6% cash flow, now you can live off of $10,000 a year. Or for 2 years, if you just consume your retirement dollars. And you're going to be living on Spam and dog food to save money, which is kind of the same thing, unless you live in Hawaii. Hawaiians, for some reason, love Spam. You can go to McDonald's and get a Spam burger in Hawaii. But bottom line is, if you've got that $172,000, you're going to spend your golden years working at Walmart, greeting people until you're too old, and then you're going to live off of the government. Again, same place. You always end up in the same place, eating Spam. Let me add a little bit more to your pain. Some of you are looking at the future. You're younger. And you're saying, I've been listening to Dave Ramsey, and so I'm going to spend the next 30 years living on beans, sitting in traffic, watching the lights of the car in front of me, going to my second job, listening to people calling to Dave Ramsey, screaming, I'm debt-free, because they paid off their house. And now that's your goal. Before I go any further, I want to offer a disclaimer. I agree with Dave Ramsey. You should pay off your credit cards. You shouldn't get car loans. You should have 6 months of reserve funds. Using the envelope system to control your spending with you and your spouse is a great discipline if you need that discipline. But how is that ever going to get you retirement? Because retirement isn't when you get your house paid off. Retirement is that's not when you get rid of your debt. Retirement happens when you have amassed enough passive streams of income either to exceed your earned income or to meet or exceed your bills. You have enough passive income to meet or exceed your bills, you can quit your job. You can quit going your job anytime you want to. You can keep working at your job if you love to. You could take a low-paying job doing something you absolutely love. You could volunteer, spend time with the kids, whatever it is. That's when retirement happens. So how in the world is paying off your home going to get you there? And I need to share a critical piece of information with you. I could not agree with Dave Ramsey more on this. He says you should never have debt on your house. You should pay off your debt on your house. You should always have debt on your house. That's kind of the key thing that I said was going to, the key obstacle for many of you. I'm going to tell you should always have debt on your house. I meet people all the time that join Lifestyles Unlimited. They've got that house completely paid off. Very proud of that. Dave Fisher, one of our instructors for the 2-day class, when he joined Lifestyles in 2009, had his house free and clear. Dave Ramsey said you should pay that off. You should pay off that mortgage always. He's not humble about it either. He says you're stupid if you don't do that. But that is in direct conflict with the path to retirement. The way you get to retirement, the way you get rich, is to maximize your money's productivity. And that's a key phrase for today. Maximizing your money's productivity. With that in mind, I'm going to give you some reasons not to pay off your mortgage. Or if it's paid off already, you've already drank the Kool-Aid. You paid off the house. You're excited about that. I'm going to give you some reasons why you should pull the money out of that house or do something else with it. Number one reason, you can pay off your house and you can still lose your house. Dave Ramsey says if it's paid off, you can never lose it. Not true. How's that, David? I'm David, too. I'm not Dave. I'm David. Dave Ramsey. I'm David. It's easy. Your house is a somewhat illiquid investment. So you lose your job. You get laid off. Coronavirus strikes. You burn through 6 months of savings. You can't pay the taxes. Or even worse, you can't pay the HOA dues. HOAs can be more ruthless than taxing authorities. So you can still lose your house.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Now, let's get back to your map to financial freedom.
Hey, good Saturday afternoon. This is David Ruzicka. You're listening to Lifestyles Unlimited Radio. I do want to remind you, you can join me this next week for one of my free workshops. Go to freeworkshoplivestream.com or just go to lifestylesunlimited.com. Either place you can find out about that. Before the break, I was talking about, I was going to give you 4 reasons. I was in the midst of giving you 4 reasons why you should never pay off your house, because what we want to do, and kind of the key phrase for today, is maximize your money's productivity. That's how you're going to retire in 5 years or less. And the number one reason why you should not pay off your house, Dave Ramsey says you want to pay it off because then you can never lose it. No, that's not true. You can lose your job. You've got an illiquid asset called a house. You burn through 6 months of savings. You can't pay your taxes, can't pay your HOA dues. You can still lose your home. So owning your house free and clear doesn't give you financial freedom. It just keeps money locked up in a place where you can't get to it. Number 2, it's not an investment. It's a place to live. It's not making you money. Yes, it's true. It may appreciate. On average, real estate doubles in value every 20 years. But tell me, how does that help you? So it doubles in value over 20 years. You got a ton of equity locked up in that house because you won't take a mortgage. So that's not really an investment. The only way it becomes an investment is if you say at the end of 20 years when it's doubled in value, I'm going to sell it and I'm going to live off the equity that was in that house and I'm going to live in a shoebox in retirement. And I don't think you want to do that. I know I don't want to do that. So it's not an investment. Number 3, so you can pay off your house, you can still lose it. It's not an investment. Number 3 is a mortgage is tax deductible. Now, this is where Dave Ramsey calls people stupid. He says, and calling somebody stupid for that reason is only accurate if that is your only reason to have a 30-year mortgage. You should not have a 30-year mortgage just for the tax deduction. Dave Ramsey assumes you're not going to take that money that would be in the house and invest it elsewhere. But here's the thing. If you're paying 3% on a mortgage right now, you only need to earn 4% on that money to make it more productive. But wait. Bankrate.com has a calculator to tell you what your real interest rate that you're being charged is after the tax deduction. And in that case, it would be, based on some background numbers, it would be about 2.25%. So you're paying 3%, but after you account for the tax deduction, it's 2.25%. So if you're borrowing money at 2.25%, you can take that money and make it more productive. You're going to go out and you're going to invest in real estate. That makes money in 5 different ways. And we tell you, in the way we teach you how to do it, you should make a minimum of 8%. In most cases, we're talking about doubling your money every few years with the equity capture and the appreciation. Now tell me again, if you can double your money every 3 years, why would you have that money, or if you could even just make 8%, why would you have that money locked in your house, which is a non-performing asset that is costing you money? Why would you do that? So that's the reason number 3, the mortgage is tax deductible. Number 4, the reason you should always have a mortgage is because the money that is locked up in that house, if you have it paid free and clear, that money could actually retire you. That is the biggest reason. And it's the difference between a middle class mindset and what we call a millionaire mindset. Curtis Haynes tells the story of sometime in his past, he went to meet somebody in the Galleria area. They actually had a family office, and that office was just to take care of the family's money and make sure that every dime of it was productive. That's what I want you to do. I want you to look at the money you have, look at the money you have invested, look at the money you're saving, and make sure that it is productive. One of the ways you do that, you take that money out of your home by getting a mortgage, making sure you have a mortgage. If you have equity in the house, refinancing, pull that equity out so that it can retire me. So it can retire you. Now, the key is, what are you going to do with that extra cash? If your answer, I'm going to take that extra cash and buy boats and hoes, no, keep the money in the house. Don't take the money out for that. That's a waste of money. But if your answer is, I'm going to make that money productive by investing in real estate, then by all means get that money out and make it productive, because you're only paying 2.25% when you take into account the tax deduction. So you only have to make 4% to be doing better than you are, and I can tell you how to even make more than that. Now, why do I want to take that money out? Let me just give you a simple example. I'm using simple round numbers because numbers are hard to do on radio. But we got Bert and we've got Ernie. Bert believes that they both have $100,000 homes. Bert believes that debt, much like cats, is straight from the devil. I'm joking. I hated cats until my daughters loved cats, and then I turned in my man card and I actually got them a cat. But because Bert believes debt is of the devil, he owns his house free and clear. Ernie understands that it's just debt on depreciating assets that is of the devil. Credit card debt, car debt, debt for Ronco rhinestone stud setters, debt for boats and hoes. That is bad debt. That is debt that is of the devil. But Ernie understands that a home is not a depreciating asset. So he goes out and he gets an FHA loan. An FHA loan on your house, 3.5% down. There will be closing costs, so I'm going to call it 10%, keep the numbers round, make it easy, or $10,000 down. So he's got a $100,000 house with a 90% loan on it, $90,000. Dave Ramsey would actually be having a cow right now. He'd be horrified by the whole idea. Bert has $100,000 tied up in a non-performing asset. He's got his house paid free and clear. It's costing him money. It's costing him money in taxes. It's costing him money in insurance. It just sits there. It's like a gold brick. It's worse than a gold brick, because a gold brick you don't have to pay taxes for. You don't have insurance for it. A gold brick is just a rock. You don't want to invest in rocks. People that invest in rocks have rocks in their heads. I understand why it sounds like a good idea. Brian Kilmeade and William Devane are always on TV on commercials saying they're paid to tell you they buy gold. So I can understand how you might be swayed. But it's a rock. Bert's house is worse than gold. It can't earn anything. It's illiquid, and you have to pay taxes on it. You say, oh, but at least he's not paying interest. Ernie, with that 90% loan, he has $90,000 of cash. He takes that $90,000 cash and he buys 7 houses. Now, we're going to be conservative. David Fisher, one of our 2-day seminar presenters, he teaches during that class how to find property. He goes online, says, here's how you search for the property. Here's what you're looking for. His goal every 2-day class is to find a property for less than $10,000 out of pocket with a 100% equity capture. That's a capital gain when you buy it. That means doubling your money. Every weekend that he teaches the 2-day class, he finds one, and he's teaching just about every weekend. I've been with him since March doing the classes, because when we started doing live stream, he and I worked together quite a bit. So this last weekend I was with him. He found a house for $3,000 out of pocket. So we're going to be conservative. Ernie takes his $90,000. He goes out and he buys 7 single-family homes. He's got a mortgage on his house. Let's say his equity capture is just 50%. I'm going to tell you how tremendous this gets on the other side of the break. It's a great, you're going to be amazed at the numbers. So hang with me. Having a good time. Glad you're here with me today.
Listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. We will teach you how to create wealth and passive income so you can be financially free. And now, back to your host.
Well, hey, good afternoon. You're listening to Lifestyles Unlimited Radio. This is David Ruzicka. I'm a Lifestyles member and a real estate investor. I'm talking today about maximizing the productivity of your money so that you can retire in 5 years or less. That is what I want for you. And I talked about, before the break, I went through the 4 reasons why you should always have a mortgage on your house. Number 1, you can pay off your house and you can still lose it. Number 2, it's not an investment. Number 3, a mortgage is tax deductible. And number 4, that money that is locked up in your house could retire you. I want to repeat what I said. A house is a non-performing asset. It is worse than having a brick. A gold brick, is just a rock. But a house, and the house, you have that thing paid off, it's like a rock, except that you have to pay taxes on that rock, and you've got to have really expensive insurance for that rock. A brick is much better. If you get a gold brick, if you want to have all your money tied up in a non-performing asset, get a brick of gold, because you don't have to pay taxes on it. That's not like the house. Then I went through the example of Ernie, who has $90,000 in cash, Bert, who has his house paid off. Again, like I said, it's like a rock. Ernie, he has a loan on his $100,000 house. Sorry, most houses are $100,000. Ernie gets an FHA loan. He's got 90% loan. He could do it for 3.5%, but we're going to take into closing costs and things like that and make sure we are very conservative. So he takes his $90,000. He goes out and he buys 7 single-family homes. Now, we teach you how to do that during the 2-day class. David Fisher always finds houses that are $10,000 or less out of pocket. So conceivably, Ernie could buy 10 houses with that $90,000. We're going to be conservative. We're going to say Ernie goes out and buys 7 single-family homes. Let's say his equity capture is just 50%. When I say equity capture, let's say you buy a house at $50,000. You spend $25,000 repairing it, bringing it back up to snuff, and then it's worth $100,000. That's the after repair value. You paid $50,000. You paid $25,000 for repairs. Now it's worth $100,000. You were all in for $75,000. You have equity capture of $25,000. That gets you up to $100,000. So let's say his equity capture is just 50%. That means that $90,000 that he went out and bought 7 single-family homes with is now worth $135,000. Average cash flow in the market today, what we're looking at, is $400 a month per house after principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is paid on those rent houses. So he has 7 houses, $400 a month cash flow. That's $2,800 a month cash flow. $33,000 a year cash flow. Could that change your lifestyle? Could that pay a few bills? Let me ask you the question. Bert, who has his house paid off but still has to pay, he probably has to pay a homeowners association too. I didn't even think about that. He has to pay taxes. He has to pay insurance. All of his money is tied up. His $100,000 is tied up in that house. Ernie has a $90,000 mortgage, owns 7 houses, giving him $400 a month in cash flow. Who has the greater security? Is it Bernie, whose house is all paid for? Or is it Ernie, who has massive debt? Ernie does have a lot of debt. He's got debt on all those single-family houses that he's invested in, those 7 houses. He has debt on his personal home. Well, let's think about Bernie. Bernie's house is all paid for. If he loses his job, burns through his emergency fund, he can't pay taxes, he can't pay the HOA dues, he can still lose his house. Ernie loses his job. He still has $2,800 a month coming in from his 7 rent houses. In 3 years, he's going to sell those houses and buy 14 more. So now he's making $60,000 a year. And on top of that, he's in the lowest for-profit tax group in the United States. Is Ernie at risk of losing his home? No. His total home payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for that house, $90,000 loan, is $700. His rent houses are paying him $2,800. After he pays his mortgage, he still has $2,100 a month. That $2,100 a month, that's covering his utilities, it's covering his groceries, it's covering his kids' dental care. He's paying all kinds of things. Now, you're thinking, what if he can't get some of those houses rented? He has bad renters. I will teach you. You come to my free workshop, I'll teach you for free how to avoid that. It's very simple. Really simple steps that you have to take to have really great renters. Just go to freeworkshoplivestream.com, sign up for one of the free workshops, 90-minute workshop. Either me or one of my teammates will teach you how to make sure that you have renters that can pay the rent. So I know that's a big fear that people have. It's actually something that we deal with all the time, and we know how to keep that from happening. So bottom line, Ernie's not at risk of losing his home. He's got $2,800 of passive income. Bernie, who's, did I say Bert or Bernie? It's Bert. I don't know why I got on to Bernie. I'm thinking Sesame Street. It's Bert and Ernie. So Bert has his house paid off, but he loses his job, burns through his emergency phone. He can't pay. Now, bottom line, Bert's money was unproductive. It's tied up in a house that is just costing him money. Ernie's money was productive. He took that money, and it is making him money. But what if they both took out loans? I know somebody you're thinking, what if Bert goes with a 15-year mortgage to pay it off quicker? Ernie still comes out ahead because Bert is throwing more money into that non-performing asset every single month. Ernie is saving that extra money because he has that 30-year mortgage, so his payment is lower. He's scrambling for every dime and every dollar he can get so that he can put that into single-family homes or put that into multifamily. Again, Ernie's money is productive. Bert's money is unproductive. I don't have to go through the numbers to prove that. That's where it's going to that's what's going to happen. Now, I want to say it again. Here's retirement for the average American. We consume our dollars and we hope we die before we run out. Ernie has taken a very small amount of money in the scheme of things, $90,000, and he's living off of that money's productivity in a way that probably many of you never imagined that you could. $2,800 a month. Maybe that's not paying all his bills, but it's paying a lot of his bills. It's maybe got him on the way to retirement. And just a side note, Ernie's rate of return on the cash flow from his rent houses is 37%. That is just cash flow. If he had invested in an individual stock or a mutual fund, is that going to give him any cash flow at all? No. In fact, if he was in retirement trying to live off that $90,000, he'd be thinking, I can live off this money for about 2 years because I'm going to consume my dollars until I have nothing else, and I'm going to live off the government. Do you see why you might need a new investment map? Some of you thinking, David, there are some stocks that pay dividends. Yes, there are some stocks that pay dividends. In fact, I'm right here in Houston, Texas, as a young stockbroker. One of the biggest pains in my life, this is before I became a pastor, one of the biggest pains in my life was when initially I would actually try to talk Exxon employees into investing in mutual funds or limited partnerships, different things that we had going on when I was a stockbroker. It was like spitting in the wind. It was a complete waste of time because Exxon employees at that time, I don't know if that's the case today, would never put any money into anything else. They put all their money in the company stock because it was the most lucrative thing they could do because Exxon, and I picked Exxon pays a great dividend. It is one of only 3 companies in the country that has a credit rating, and probably in the world, I'm assuming the world, that has a better credit rating than the United States government. The United States government is the gold standard for credit ratings. Exxon has a better credit rating. The other 2 are Microsoft and Johnson & Johnson, just in case you're wondering. So I'd go out and talk to these Exxon folks, and I'd say, hey, I want you to put some money in a mutual fund, do this or do that. And they'd be like, you're crazy, man. I got Exxon stock. Why would I do that? And then finally I talked to some older stockbrokers. I was like, yeah, you're wasting your time. You don't need to do that. Now, today, you say, some stocks do provide cash flow. Well, today, Exxon does have a dividend yield of 10%. That's because, which is pretty good. But that's because the stock price has dropped by 50%. Total return over the last 20 years for Exxon stock is 9%. Over the last 5 years, including the dividend, negative 8.2%. So there you go. Again, I'll ask you, when is the last time you were able to make the kind of money that I just showed you that Ernie is making off of his rent houses? Hey, hang with me till after the break. I'm going to finish this up, bring it home, talk about how you're going to retire yourself in 5 years or less by using the productivity, maximizing productivity of your money.
It comes a point in time every now and then when the world flips upside down. And during that time, you have to come up with a decision in your life. How are you going to go through this? How are you going to work your way through this process that has no end? So what do you do? The first thing I need you to understand is that almost every entrepreneur out there makes it big when something bad happens. I tripled my net worth between 2008 and 2010. 10 years straight increase in value. It makes us all look like geniuses when everything goes up for 10 years straight. But now we're at the point where we're going to find out who's good again. And you need to be in there. Because why? Because I tripled my net worth in 2 years. You can do it too if you know what to do. You need to get into lifestyles right now.
Join us for our free live online workshop. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. It's time to turn up the volume and fine-tune your passive income plan so you can create the lifestyle you've always wanted.
Hey, hope you're still with me. Glad you're still with me. Hope you're still with me. If you're hearing me, obviously you're still with me. So glad you're with me. If you tuned in just now, this is David Ruzicka. I'm a Lifestyles member and a real estate investor. I also teach the free workshop. You heard Dale talking about that during the break. Go to freeworkshoplivestream.com and you can hear the 5 ways that we make money with real estate and the 6 principles that we use to provide for our families and run our businesses. Today, we're talking about maximizing the productivity of your money, and I shared with you why you should always pay off your house. Number one reason, because you can pay off your house, you can still lose it. It's going to be less risky to pay it off and invest that money in real estate. Number 2, it's not an investment. Number 3, a mortgage tax is deductible. Number 4, that money could retire you, and that is the big deal. That is the big kahuna. That money could retire you. We were talking about Ernie. Ernie is earning 37% a year on his money because he got a loan, whereas Bert bought a house all cash for $100,000. Bernie bought a house, got a 90% loan, got an FHA loan. We assumed that he's only he put $10,000 down. He could do it for 3.5%, but we went ahead and said 10%. Went out and bought 7 houses, bringing in $400 a month in passive income, which we can show you how to do during the 2-day class. Dave Fisher finds houses for $10,000 out of pocket every single week when he's teaching that 2-day classes and shares those with you. So Ernie's rate of return is 37%. Yes, you can find a few stocks that pay dividends. I said before the break, Exxon. Exxon is paying a 10% dividend right now because the stock price has dropped by 50%. The total return for Exxon stock over the last 20 years is 9%. Say, wow, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. It's not as good as real estate, but it is pretty good. But you're never going to retire on that. You can't get rich slow. Total return over the last 5 years of Exxon stock, that's including the dividend, negative 8.2%. Ernie, who is not a rocket scientist, he's not a genius. He's earning just $400 a month cash flow on each of his house. He's earning 37% a year. Here's how you don't lose money. Must have cash flow. Ernie has cash flow. Cream, that's what you need to remember. Cream, Wu-Tang Crew, that's a song. Cash rules everything around me. You're earning 37% cash flow on that money, and Ernie is on his way to retirement with just $90,000 invested. Now, if you've been doing that for the last 5 years, like Ernie was, and just doing okay with single family or multifamily, you could be retired. Again, remind you, retirement for the average American is consume our dollars, hope that we die before we run out. Retirement for Ernie is when he has amassed enough passive streams of income to meet or exceed his bills. Who's going to get there fast? Bert, or Ernie? Well, Bert has all his money sunk into his house. It's not making him money. It's costing him money. Ernie is going to double his money. We just assumed he increased it by 50% in just about 3 years. He's going to have $135,000. He's going to go out and buy more houses. He's going to have $60,000 a year in cash flow. Who has less risk? Ernie. His cash flow from his rent houses is paying his mortgage, and he still has money left over to pay for all those other bills. Now, how are we going to buy those rent houses? Well, if you look on the internet, you will find a lot of people talking about, oh, you can buy rent houses for all cash. No, that's a horrible idea. You would never want to do that. You want to use debt to buy those houses. I remember going to a case study years ago, and this little guy got up and he was telling about how a case study is where a lifestyles event where members share how they did on a particular investment. Just people like you and me saying, oh, I bought this house, here's what I paid for it. They tell everything. Tremendous benefit of being a member of Lifestyles because we do tell everything. We believe in an abundance mentality. There's plenty for everyone. And so we share everything because we want everybody to be successful. And so this little guy was telling how about they went out and bought this $50,000 house with his dad, and they paid all cash for it just to kind of get their feet wet and try it for the first time. And as soon as he said we paid all cash, Dell came from the side of the room yelling, no, you never do that. You never do that. And I felt sorry for the kid, but I understood later there were a couple hundred people in the room. And that is horrible advice, saying buy a rent house for all cash. What he was suggesting that it was less risky and sound judgment to buy a rental property all cash, and it is neither. When you buy a rental property all cash, you ruin it. You say, how so, David? Well, number one, you kill your cash flow because you're limiting the productivity of your dollars. The whole point of investing in real estate is to amass enough passive streams of income to meet or exceed your bills. Again, let's use Ernie for our example. Let's say he's so risk averse that he gets a mortgage on his home and he has $90,000 to invest. So he goes out and he buys just one rental property. Now, why somebody would have a mortgage on their home but not on their rental property, probably hard to find somebody like that. But we're going to use our imagination, believe in unicorns and all that kind of stuff, and say that's Ernie. So he goes out and he buys one rental home, all cash, and he's going to collect rent, $1,200 a month. He still has to pay taxes and insurance. So that's about $260. I know because I have Ernie's property. So his net is $940 or $11,280 of cash flow a year on that one property. But he's tapped out. End of story. He has no more money to invest. Nada, no bueno. All his money is invested, and he's getting a 12.5% return on it. Better than Exxon stock, on the dividend anyway. But that's it. He's finished. Better than the stock market, 12.5% a year. But you know what? They always say the better is the enemy of the best. And that is certainly the case here. Instead, he gets mortgages. He buys 7 properties with $400 a month cash flow. $400 a month cash flow each. So his cash flow skyrockets. Instead of one property making $11,000 a year, he has 7 properties totaling $33,000 a year. He's earning $33,000 divided by his $90 out of pocket. He's got a 37% return, cash on cash return on that money. That will dramatically increase his lifestyle. $11,280, not so much. Would earning over 30% on the money you have in cash flow change your lifestyle? It changed my lifestyle quite a bit. I mean, you end up, all of a sudden you're in a place where you're not sweating things at night because you know you've got a good cushion in that cash flow from those investment properties. Number 2. So, number 1 reason to use debt or not to pay cash for your rental properties. It's going to kill your cash flow because it limits the productivity of your properties, of your money. Number 2, paying all cash for a house severely limits your equity capture. Again, he's got $90,000. He pays $65,000 for a house. He has $25,000 in rehab. He's all in for $90,000. His after repair value is $110,000. He fixes it up. He paid $65,000 for it. He fixes it up and now gets an appraisal. It's worth $110,000. So he had $20,000 in cash flow. He's all in for $90,000. It's worth $110,000. $110,000 minus $90,000. That's $20,000 equity capture. That's a 20% unrealized capital gain. When he sells it, he'll have 20% gain. That's right off the bat, right at the beginning. That's not bad. But that's not going to retire you in the next decade or the next 5 years. So instead, he gets a hard money loan. Come to my two-day workshop. I'll explain all the numbers about what a hard money loan is. I had never heard of that before I joined Lifestyles. I understood a lot of people from the radio show had heard about that, who had heard the radio show. But bottom line, it's a short-term, interest-only, asset-based loan. It's just a loan during the rehab. Then you refi into a conventional 30-year mortgage at a very low rate. Bottom line is you can finance 70% of the after-repair value rather than 80% of the purchase price. So instead of 80% of the purchase price, which was $65,000, he can finance 70% of the after repair value, that $110,000. With a conventional lender, you can't finance any of your rehab costs. With a hard money lender, you can finance most of your rehab costs. So instead of $90,000 out of pocket, I'm not going to go through the detailed numbers. Bottom line is he has $13,000 out of pocket. He's getting that house that's going to be worth $110,000 after it's all fixed up for $13,000. So his equity capture of $20,000 with $13,000 out of pocket, that is a 153% return on the equity capture. He has doubled his money. That's how you retire yourself in 5 years or less. And where's the risk? He now has a property that upon purchase has $33,000 of equity. He's only got $13,000 invested in it. That's the power of leverage with real estate. You are maximizing your cash flow in a way that you cannot with any other investment. You are maximizing your capital gains in a way that you cannot with any other investment vehicle. In fact, when you look at it, you see what we call an IRA and a 401k, a savings plan, not an investment plan. An investment is when Sam Walton became rich by building Walmarts everywhere, or Warren Buffett buys whole companies. An investment is when you change your life by learning how to overcome middle-class obstacles like the belief that debt on your home is bad, even on safe cash-flowing real estate, and you get on your way to financial freedom. David Fisher, I'm going to say last thing, joined in 2009. He had his house completely paid off. He took the money out of that house, went out and started investing in real estate, retired himself in 2 years. You can hear his entire story if you join Lifestyles Limited. Go to his 2-day class. I want to tell you one last time, go to freeworkshoplivestream.com, and you can change your life by amassing enough passive streams of income that you meet or exceed your bills.
The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.